come to the counseling process. Okay, so whatever you listen, so actively we have to listen. As I mentioned, some cases like some sort of issues, because they want to express their emotions only to the counselor. So that is the reason, listen to the client's whole story, paying attention to the content, thought, emotion, and behavior. Okay, their emotions, we need to pay attention to the content, to whatever their content, you need to attentively listen to the content. Then their thought process, how they think, their thought process. Okay, you can say it's a cognition of the patient, cognition of the client, cognition of the counselee. Those things also we need to understand in our listening process. Emotions and behavior. Okay, so the emotions, what are the emotions of the client through their behavior? So you can easily understand. As we know, one component of emotion is the behavior component, like cognitive component, physiological component of emotion, then behavior component. Here, in the first to second sessions of counseling, initial state of counseling, based on the behavior of the client, or patient, or the counselee, we can understand their emotions up to some extent. So better to listen the client's content and their thought process and the behavior of the, when you observe the behavior, you can easily understand their emotions. So pay attention to the client's non-verbal communication. Some cases, some initial state of counseling, they may not be in a position to express with the verbal communication, especially in the initial state. Some vulnerable conditions, some state of emotional disturbance conditions, they'll come to you. They'll come to the counselor. In that situation, in that emotional disturbed situation, the client may not be in a position to express their emotions in verbal. So in the such cases, some sort of non-verbal communication need to listen, you need to understand, you need to observe. So when we pay attention to the client's non-verbal communication, so you can easily understand the emotions of the client. In some cases, so we need to give some sort of time gap or silences during their listening of content. Then when they use some sort of content, as you can say, doing storytelling, so better to maintain silence from the counselor side. If the client wants to put their thoughts in order, so we need to listen the same order. Okay, so personal space, referring to the comfortable or uncomfortable distance between people, experiment with other group members, using your intuition to say stop when others move towards away from you. So when they are in a process of their storytelling, better to listen till the completion of the story. For example, any additional information you need, ask them gently to stop. Then they just ask them to repeat it. Okay. Then eye contact is most important. Is eye contact. It refers that your interest on their issue. So when you are showing their, when you're showing the interest on their issue, when in order to resolve their issue, in order to address their problem, how they understand, how they can identify your understanding their emotions. Means based on your some non-verbal communications like eye contact. Okay, so when you face to face, if you see the face to face, means it gives eye to eye contact, means you are showing some interest on their issue and you are in a situation to address their issue. So that is another important non-verbal communication. Then facial expressions like your eye gaze, tilt of your head, then another important thing is head nodding. Okay, so around your eyes, tightening the muscles around your eyes, lips, and other physical expressions. They can these are all the non-verbal, or you can say facial expression gives your this interest on the issue. Then touch in some cases, in a limited case, in a specific case. The next exercise, have one person in your group take another by the wrist and draw him forward. So some cases, personal touch, or you can say personal contact, making clear boundaries. When some behavior feels like it's becoming uncomfortable. If it is comfortable to the client, then only you better to go to that non-verbal communication of touch. Okay. So if you feel it is a uncomfortable, no need of going to showing this type of non-verbal communication. Then pacing. Pacing means giving some space between one to another. So to appreciate this variable, choose an action such as extending your hand forward and perform the movement several times, that is pacing. Then locomotion, feelings of attitudes. For example, try out the various modes of locomotion, notice what ideas they generate. Feelings, attitudes, impressions. Okay, so these are all the some start of non-verbal communication. Even the context also. Context. So the for example, it is classroom style with a group of people, or so whether it is which type of context, environment. That also one non-verbal communication. Okay, so this like I can say it is body language, whether it is empathetical movements of touch, postures, and facial expressions. So that is one important thing. Then movement of touching, postures, facial expressions. Then how you observe the environment, situation, that is context. Okay, so these are all the various non-verbal techniques. Okay, then nowadays there are and these are all the techniques related to the communication. That communication may be verbal or non-verbal communication. Other techniques, in therapeutic
Madam, mutle pettukondi please.
In therapeutical techniques, some therapies, important therapies we have to discuss. The therapeutical techniques are that. So see, any counseling techniques, any counseling skill is having some base. It is theoretical base. From the theoretical base, therapeutical techniques. From therapeutical techniques, then counseling skills. Direct, you can't give any counseling tips based on our own language, based on our own knowledge. Better to have proper knowledge of the theories. the psychological theories. For example, some theories or some techniques, for example, therapeutical techniques like aversion therapy, systematic desensitization, cognitive restriction technique, then relation training, then implosive therapy. These are all the various therapies. So here, for example, systematic desensitization therapy, or you can say systematic desensitization technique. Systematic desensitization technique is that in this particular word itself, systematic desensitization technique. Sensitization, desensitization, and systematic desensitization. Got it? Sensitization, for example, if in any anxiety, or you can say any phobic condition, phobia, maybe hydrophobia or hydrophobia. In this hydrophobia, any sort of phobia, the root cause of that phobia is anxiety. In this anxiety, in systematic desensitization technique, so we are desensitizing this anxiety. Sensitization, desensitization, and systematic desensitization. Systematic desensitization means stage-wise. Okay, so that is one technique or therapeutic technique of phobia cases. Okay. Whereas in implosive therapy just reverse of this systematic desensitization. Systematic desensitization starts from simple and it goes on to the complex situation. It's a hierarchical process. Okay, starting from the initial state and ends with the top. One example here, for example, some hydrophobia. Hydrophobia means if the person reaches the third or fourth floor of any building or any areas, he will have some sort of this anxiety. In that case, what we will suggest in systematic desensitization technique, ask the patient to reach the first floor and stay for some time, having some relaxation techniques. Initial state, you will take the patient to the first floor, then and he or she feels anxious, we will give some sort of techniques, relaxation techniques. So after completion of 2 or 3 sessions in this particular first floor, then we will take the same patient to the second floor after some sessions. Then same process, second floor and third floor. Then slowly his anxiety will be reduced and relaxation will be. So here, starting from the simple, means starting from the first floor, we'll take him to the second, then third, and fourth. So this is from simple to complex, or you can say starting to top of the hierarchy. Okay. So whereas in this implosive therapy, the second therapy is the implosive therapy. In the implosive therapy, we will not observe this type of stepwise method, stage-wise process. Directly, we will expose him to the situation. And this is also one important technique in the Sigmund Freud's emotional flooding. Like Sigmund Freud's catharsis technique, or you can say emotional flooding. Whatever the emotions, better to flood those emotions, not in a systematic way, not in a stepwise way. So whatever the anxiety, implosion of anxiety or flood of anxiety. Here, deliberately attempts to the client a massive flood or implosion of anxiety without any stage-wise process. With repeated exposure of the same situation, what happens slowly, this anxiety will be reduces according to the implosive therapy. So first one is the systematic desensitization therapy. Second is the implosive therapy. Then third one is the aversion therapy. generally this aversion therapy we use the cases of maladaptive behavior cases like smoking, drinking, overeating, and uh, that is drug dependency. So here in these cases, some sort of previous in olden days they used it to give the punishment, method of punishment, just like a method of punishment in olden days. They want to stop the client by doing all these maladaptive behaviors. In order to modification of their maladaptive behaviors, they used to give punishments in the olden days. But whereas now here in this latest and the modern times, so one other technique is that it is removal of positive reinforcement and give the negative reinforcement. That is the behavior modification techniques. As we know, behavior modification program, as we know, it is reinforcement, positive reinforcement, negative reinforcement. Previously, they used to give the punishment in order to stop their maladaptive behavior. Now it is the modification behavior, or you can say behavior modification technique. In the behavior modification techniques, instead of giving punishment, what we will do is removing the positive reinforcement. Okay, and whereas in the aversive therapy, some sort of shocks. Apparently, the first phase of aversion therapy was used by by giving some sort of electric shocks to alcoholic patients, alcoholic clients. Okay, so another techniques of this aversion is that giving alcoholic techniques and some sort of smell and taste of alcohol. Okay, so here when the electric shocks to alcoholics in association with the sight, smell, and taste of alcohol. So aversion therapy means if they smell that alcohol, and when they taste that alcohol, then they see that alcohol, so they'll have some sort of aversion. Okay, by giving this type of technique, so this type of aversion. Okay, generally these electrical techniques, the help of the psychiatric specialists, psychiatric doctors only. We are supposed with medical professionals, the help of medical professionals only. This type of aversion therapy and aversion techniques can be used. Then systematic use of positive reinforcement. Another technique is the systematic use of positive reinforcement. For example, in
Sir, I have a question. Can I ask sir now on the aversion technique?
Yes, I know.
Yeah, sir, for aversion technique, you said for any kind of addictions, we can use it. So do we give prompts for example, if it is alcoholism, do we give a prompt when they want to have a sip of alcohol? Do we give, say, a kind of statement which will avert them, or how exactly practical application of it?
Prompting, how far it is applicable in this case, it depends on the intensity of their maladaptive behavior.
Okay, so for aversion, even if the smell, how does that aversion develop is what my question is.
So when they see that alcohol, when they think about the alcohol, when they smell that alcohol, definitely they will visualizing the experience, whatever they experience in the electric shocks.
Okay, got it.
Yes. Next, so here in the systematic use of positive reinforcement, why positive reinforcement systematically we use? For example, in any behavioral issues in the children. Okay, for example, if they stop their behavioral issues, for example, if they're not sit at one place, okay, restlessness. So how to give the systematic use of positive reinforcement means generally what happens, the parents will tell them, give chocolates if you do this. Okay, so it means after giving chocolates, what next? What they'll give? Here, systematic reinforcement means first saying that, smiling, For example, if your child is around 4 years, 5 years, child having some sort of restlessness issue, behavioral issue. So it depends on their IQ levels, depends on their understanding capacities. Better to explain the consequences of the restlessness. You got it? So if they stop of that particular restlessness, if they modify the behavior by your explanations, by your training, so you just say very good or good first. Good. That is the first level of just I'm giving some examples. That's it. So this is say good. You are not going anyway just for 5 minutes or 10 minutes if you sit properly. Okay. So if the child sits for 15 minutes or whatever the requirement, whatever the task you give to the child, if he or she achieve the task, your initial positive reinforcement, the first level of positive reinforcement. Say very good or good. Got it? Then next level is that if instead of 10 minutes, next after 2 days or 3 days after practicing of this 15 minutes sitting conference, then next level, if you give the target of 25 minutes or 20 minutes, 5 minutes more compared to the previous day. If the child sits for 25 or 30 minutes, then next level of positive reinforcement is that you are following my instructions, you are modifying your behavior, you are not going anywhere, your restlessness is come down. That is the reason this is the positive reinforcement that we have to show and give. Then the same modification of behavior continues for 1 week or 10 days. Then third level of positive reinforcement. You are doing good. You are not going anywhere. The restlessness has come down. So that would be better to explain to the child. So if you continue, just say in words, don't do anything. If you continue this, if you show continuously shows the same type of behavior for 1 week, I give some if you are to make can say things edible items. Only saying that, not giving anything. Or tell them, I'll take you to the park. I'll take you to the neighbor's house. I will take you to the shopping or completion of this 1 week or weekend. Right? Just you are saying that you're not taking anything. Then finally, whatever you are promised, you better to give after 10 days or 15 days. This is the way of giving systematic use of positive reinforcement. Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
Then this one technique. One is systematic sensitization. Then it is implosive therapy, aversion therapy, systematic use of positive reinforcements. Then relation training. Relations training is another technique of is counseling, especially therapeutic counseling. In this necessary condition for effective helping. So discrimination training is judging the degree of effectiveness of interpersonal relations. We need to explain how to maintain the good relations. That is the training we have to provide to maintain the relations. Relations training and counseling is the most important. For example, some patients, due to their not mingling with other members in the group, they'll have some sort of psychological disturbance. They themselves isolate the group. They won't mingle with the group. Sociability is very less. In that case, if you find such that cases, better to give the relation training. Okay. So after completion of your training, you need to give some sort of conditions for effective helping of relation maintaining. Okay. So how effectiveness of interpersonal relationship, that will be better to explain to the case, explain to the client. explain to the patient. If you maintain this type of relations, these positive consequences, it can. Again, here one other technique, that is ABC model. Okay, then interpreting the emotional status of differentiation and identification of individuals' emotional status from his verbal expressions. So in some cases, because of their communication issues, they won't be in a position to maintain good relations with the other members in the group. So here, if you identify that is the case, if you identify the communication problem is patient is the problem, so better to identify that and better to express the issue to the explain the issue to the right. So this is the communication problem. Because of the communication problem, you are not in a position to mingle with other members in the group. Okay, ask them. Written response learning how to discriminate and communicate effective helping response to the replies of some situations. Ask them to mingle with some limited groups initially. For example, in some cases, what happens in a large group of people, they won't be in a position to mingle. If the members are limited, like 2 or 3 members in the large group, better to maintain good relations with the 2-3 members, or you can say subgroup in the main group. As we know, there are 3 types of these individuals, depends on their relations to the group, or you can say in society. One is star, another is isolate, third is the clique. Star means, so he is the first person to easily mingle and easily maintain good relations with other members in the group. And second is the isolate. He won't maintain any relations with the members of the group, that is isolate. He himself isolates with other members in the group. Third is the clique, C-L-I-Q-U-E, clique. It means some individuals will be like that. They will maintain the relation only with a small group of the main group, like 3 members or 4 members. Only with the 3 or 4 members only they will maintain the relations. And they least bother about the other members in the group. So what happens in this particular cases, some individuals, they won't maintain the relation with all members in the group, but only some 2 or 3 members. Initially, better to ask them to maintain the 2 or 3 members relations. Later on, stage wise, they will go for the relations with the other members. They'll maintain the other good relations with the other members of the group. That is one technique you can follow. Okay. So any problem of verbal or non-verbal issues, to ask them to address those issues, so that they will be in a position to express their views with the other members in the group. Okay. As I mentioned, in systematic desensitization also some techniques training is needed. Any technique, when we are applying this technique, training of the particular technique, thorough understanding of particular technique is most important. Likewise, in even the systematic desensitization also, training in deep muscle relaxation, the construction of anxiety hierarchy, how to maintain the hierarchy. As I mentioned, in systematic desensitization techniques, for example, the hydrophobia, what happens? Initially, we will take the patient to the first floor, then second floor, then third, and so on. Same way, how to construction, how to frame this hierarchies. That is also most important thing. Okay, so any sort of therapeutical techniques, we need to have proper training so that you can easily apply the training technique, so therapeutical technique to the clients. Then another important technique is assertive training. The assertive training, or you can say assertiveness, is a response that seeks to maintain an appropriate balance between the passivity and aggression. So we're all humans. We'll have some emotional disturbances, like aggression is one important emotion, like anger. So how to maintain the balance between the passivity and the aggression status? Assertive response to promote fairness, equality in human interactions. They will maintain, if they want to give the assertive training to the patient, Ask them to maintain the balance between the passivity and the aggression status, or you can say emotional status. Okay, emotional balancing state, emotional stability state. That is the most important thing in the assertive training. So ask them to maintain their emotions, ask the person to identify their emotions. And in the assertive training, learning to communicate in a clear and honest way of expression, clear emotional expression, or you can say communicate in a clear and honest type of expressions. Okay, another important point of this assertive training is that always when the expression is in a systematic and a passive way, few precautions they are supposed to take. One is that response also should be in assertive manner, rather than become aggressive in doing that activities. So better to communicate in a clear-cut manner. And the same way, we are supposed to train them to respond in a smooth way. Expression also should be a clear-cut and smooth way, and response also the same. Okay, so before giving the assertive training to the client, better to provide the training in the information gathering. What happens if we don't have the proper information, not having proper knowledge of the particular topic, that it also leads to some sort of aggression, or you can say fear or anger. But if you have thorough understanding of a particular topic, or that particular person, or particular situation, what happens? Your attitude will be positive. If you don't know about the other persons, if you have some confused state about other situations of experiment, experiences, we will be in a confused state that leads to some sort of negative attitude.
Shiva.
Hello.
Hello.
So here, in this case of assertive training, better to train the person to get proper information on a topic, on a person, on any situation. So information gathering, having proper understanding is also one important component of assertive training. Okay, same way in assertive training also, not only some
In doubt, sir, information gathering by the client or a trainer, sir?
So the trainer, see, as a psychologist, as a counselor, if they don't have proper information about a topic or a person or the situation, ask them to get proper information. Clear?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Then here, self-observation skills. Why self-observation skills are needed? See, in assertive training, as I mentioned, self-observation, understanding of their own emotions. So self-observation means it's introspection. What happens if introspection happens? Introspection is the most important method of psychology. In initial classes of your first year, there are some methods of psychology. One important method is introspection method, then observation method, experimental method, case study method, survey method. These are some methods of psychology. So first one is introspection. Introspection means seeing one's own self. What happens? I can say insight, improving the insight. What happens if we see in our own self, we can understand our positives, and we can also understand our negative aspects. Okay, if we have some negative aspects, better to reduce those negative things, and we will improve the positive. That is the reason self-observation and self-introspection, or you can say introspection, is needed. When we are giving assertive training to the client, better to ask them to identify their positives. Also better to identify the negatives, so that they can understand their positives and negatives, so that they can utilize their abilities and competencies. In some cases, even though the client or the patient or the individual having so much of capabilities, they don't know, they don't use it. So that is the reason we better to ask them to identify their positives and negatives. It's nothing but say self-observation. So in this particular process, supportive therapy also needed. So in order to explain them, to identify their capabilities, competencies, skills, our support is also needed. It is one type of supportive therapy. Even risk management, even the conflict management also. So this type of assertive techniques or assertive training can be given to the client. Then in some cases, role playing also one therapeutic technique.
డ్రెస్ కోడ్ అని
Is the issues.
ఇప్పుడు మొన్ననే దేంట్లో గ్రూప్ లో.
So here, these are all the various techniques of assertive training. What happens in the
ఏదో నాకు వైట్ డ్రెస్ వైట్ ఫ్రాక్ వైట్ గ్లౌజ్ ఇంకేమో
Shavanti garu, please mute yourself.
Yeah. So here, what are the benefits of the assertive behavior? One is that you can easily express their emotions in a positive way, in a smooth way. That means improve the expressions, or you can say improve the communication through assertive training. Number one. Number two, they'll understand their problem in a better manner. And they'll have their own identification of their positives and negatives. Another thing, another important advantage of this assertive training is they can solve their problems. As I mentioned, in some cases they don't know their own abilities. They have so much of abilities, so much of skills, but they don't know they have their own abilities and competencies. In order to give the supportive therapy, if you ask them to identify their abilities and the skills, once they identify their abilities and the competencies, automatically they'll utilize it. That is possible only through this self-observation, which you'll give to the assertive training or supportive therapy. Okay, so they will understand their own this self better, and they also treating people in an assertive manner. These are all the benefits of the assertive training. But some disadvantage also important. So whatever the person, whatever the therapist that gives the assertive training in a proper way, in a proper training, they need to provide. That is number. If they are not provide proper training, this assertive training may not give proper result. Number one. Number two is that assertiveness is an often sometimes a longer, which may mildly frustrate people, because if they are not understanding this training properly, they will frustrate. Okay, but another disadvantage of this assertive training is that if the severe emotional status, elevated moods, in severe emotional situations, so this assertive training may be failed. Only with these 2-3 disadvantages, but advantages are more in the assertive training, or you can say assertive training, assertive techniques. Okay, now we'll move to the next. This thing we have something.
Excuse me, sir.
Yeah.
Sir, in this assertive training, I have a doubt, sir.
Mhm.
So, what will be the role of the counselor, sir? As a counselor, like what we have to do? Like in the case of aversive technique, we are providing the punishment for maladaptive behavior physically. But as a counselor now in this assertive training, what we have to do? Like we have to talk in a positive sentences, or we have to communicate. Like I have not understood from the counselor side, sir.
Oh, no, see, punishment is different. The technique is different. Various techniques we are discussing today.
Yes, sir, like that only. In this assertive technique, are we just communicating in a positive way so that the client can self-realize himself?
Exactly. Train the
Oh,
client to communicate in assertive manner. Okay.
okay,
This
okay,
training we need to provide, and in order to provide this training, how to communicate, how to understand the others, how to observe their own self, how to identify their own abilities, and how to utilize those abilities. Okay, got it?
okay, sir, okay,
Yeah.
got it, sir.
We have some techniques today. We discussed technique. Last technique is technique, like systematic design special technique, explosive technique. Then this another technique is like assertive training. Okay. So there are other techniques, various techniques in the counseling. Okay.
Okay, sir, thank you, sir.
Yeah, yeah, yes. Then next one is the another important this topic is, but the unit is the counseling for marital, sexual, family, women, and elderly. So here in this unit, we will discuss these subtopics of counseling, marital counseling, sexual, family, women, and elderly counseling. So here in our culture, marriage is in our tradition, our Indian structure. Marriage is the most important stage need of the person. Okay, so to maintain the intimate relations. So marriage is important that is event in any individual's life. Okay, because as we know in Abraham Maslow's hierarchy of needs, one need is that some basic needs, some are the psychological needs. As we know, there are some primary needs, some secondary needs. In this family marital this marriage, both needs like primary needs, I can say physical needs, and the psychological needs also achieved or fulfilled, you can say. Okay, so that is the reason this event is important, marriage is important, and we have one need of Abraham Maslow's hierarchy, that is love and affection, belongingness. First one is the physiological need, or you can say physical need. Then second one is the need of safe and secure. Third is the need of love and affection. Okay, so here one love and affection. There are two types of uh, love and affection. One is the companionate love. Companionate love. Second is the passionate love. Companionate love refers to a variety of love that is durable, then fade, slow to develop, and interdependence, feelings of affection, intimacy, and commitment. See how many components are there in the companionship. Second one is passionate love. This passionate love includes erotic love, romantic love, at the state of being in love with another person. So in marital events, in marriage of any individuals, this passionate love may be up to some extent, but most of the cases, the companionate love you can observe in the marital relations. Okay, so to fulfill the needs of human being, as I mentioned, both needs, like physiological needs and the psychological needs. Marriage is most important event in any individual's life. And what are the benefits of marriage? There are some benefits of marriage. Is that one is that combining two individuals, one family structure within which to raise, nurture, and socialize children from both backgrounds, different backgrounds. One family structure is formed through the
Madam.
Saraswati garu.
okay through this structure, maintain a house, raise the children. Education, families are one way to which cultural religions, traditions, and transmit to the young. The culture can be promoted through the marriage relations, raising the children, getting children, and adapting these children to your culture and to the future culture of the generations. And there are some other benefits of family. So here, socialization. Socialization is a continuous process in any family group to which a couple belongs automatically becomes larger when they marry. Initially, they are only two individuals, but slowly, a group of individuals from their family. Another important benefit of the family. Then physical health. One study, one hypothesis is that there are two major hypotheses for the health advantage of marriage. The first is selection, that is, healthier people choose to be married. People who choose to be married often have more financial resources, less stress compared to the individuals, compared to the not married people who are not married. Then less stress, more social support, then better health habits. Got it? So better health, not only the physical and mental health, compared to those who choose to be single. So this is another important physical health, emotional health, compared to the people, those who choose to be single. Psychological health means their well-being, psychological well-being, compared to the compared with the people who are unmarried. Married people are also better off in their psychological well-being. If married individuals are happier and less depressed. On the one hand, some evidence indicates that happier and less depressed people may be more likely than unhappy and depressed people to get married. On the other hand, some studies suggest that this greater psychological well-being is the result of the married relationship rather than the why? Because their physiological needs as well as the psychological needs fulfilled in the marital relation. That is the reason their psychological well-being, their psychological health, comparing to the person, those who choose to be single, is better. Okay, and their children, they'll live the children, they live their life with the children. Marriage is an important milestone in the individual's life. To a very large extent, it makes for the individual's happiness. Marriage is the process of which two people who love each other make their relationship public. Okay, then official and the permanent. Their marital relationship is official and it is in a permanent relationship. It is the joining of two people in a bond that lasts for a long time. Got it? And another, as I mentioned, sexual and other needs also fulfilled in this marital as a physiological needs, primary needs of our Abraham Maslow's needs hierarchy of needs. So here, but even though the marriage has so many benefits, But in some cases, if anything happens, marital counseling also needed. Got it? So in marital counseling, some issues, the marriage, because marriage is the center around which all of the relationship of the couple are formed. The couples are the builders of the new family, even though, so this is the one sort of structure in our culture. Some issues may be related in the marital relationships. One is that marital counseling deals with the pain in the marriage. Some issues if they happen. So this counseling is needed to deal with the issues related to the marital relationship. So the marital counseling help in working in the both levels, at the individual level and the marriage as a whole. In the marital counseling, we are supposed to deal the individuals and as a person in the marital relationship. So the marital counseling helps in the couple to act so as to establish a balance in the relationship. And this counseling helps in checking certain irrational assumptions that are detrimental to the marriage. In some cases, some irrational assumptions may lead some sort of conflicts in the marital relationship. That conflicts also can be addressed in the marital counseling. This counseling helps the couple to act jointly in the nurturing the relationship, thereby making a fast recovery. So in case of marital counseling, better to resolve the issue, better to address the issue as early as possible. If this issue, if this conflict is continuously for years together, for a long time, it leads some sort of major problems in the marital relationship. Got it? Marital counseling is indeed a very wide field of area. That is, one is premarital counseling, counseling for better marital harmony, counseling to eliminate or eliminate a marital breakups. So these are three areas in the marital counseling. Then what will be the crisis in the marriage? First one is the crisis, maybe the conflicts, maybe the financial issues, maybe the health issues, maybe the relations related to the beliefs and attitudes. These are all the various issues in the marital conflicts or the marital issues. So what are the factors affecting in the marriage? There are some factors affecting the marriage. One is that unclear expectations. Unclear expectations of the both sides, unclear expectations of the husband towards the wife and vice versa. And mutual expectations were not conveyed properly or were not checked for reality, and some imaginary things are happening in the relations. It leads to some conflicts and some immediate wants of the individuals. There are some immediate needs from the both sides. That also one important factor affecting the marital relations. Then self-esteem of the both sides, self-esteem of the husband and the wife, and confused state of roles, or you can say ambiguous role of both, like the husband or wife. Okay, and maybe some factor is the communication gap, ways of communication among the couple. You can say communication gap also leads to some marital issues. No interest on each other's life, zero affection towards each other, no affection. As I mentioned, the most important reason, root cause of this marital relation is the one need of human being, that is need of love and affection. If they don't have this type of a need, they don't have, if they are not achieved this type of need, automatically it leads some issues in the, as I mentioned, zero affection towards each other, no interest in each other, and zero affection, no love and affection between them both. Okay, So then no empathy, compatibility. Okay, and the social life and the private life. This also some cases. This are the one important factor. Social life, the urban and the metropolitan conditions. There is much scope for socializing. Individuals have their own clubs and associations. Sometimes excessive socialization leads to some sort of conflict in the, especially in the cities and the urban areas. Excessive socialization leads some misunderstanding and the conflict in the marriage relations. And another important factor is that working couples have the occupational demands. They will be busy with the occupational demands. They won't be in a position to focus on the marital relation, the family issues. That is the reason. That is the one important factor of marital issues. So in the marital counseling, the role of the counselor is crucial. So the basic tenet of counseling and guidance is that for self-actualization. In recent times, studies have revealed that marital counseling has come to be a continuous process with its beginning in the days of courtship. In some cases, these marital relations, if it is not addressed in the initial state, what happens? It leads some sort of issues in the judicial state. Some legal issues also may be arising if these things continuously. The counselor's role in counseling women is often complicated by not only women's. So here, in case of some issues related to the marital counseling to the men, not only men, and the women also needed. Both sides counseling is needed. So these things are also important when the counselor's role is so crucial in this marital counseling. For example, if the version of the wife will be somehow different, if you ask about the husband's issues, they also give some sort of different views or the factors or the reasons of this marital problems. So better to give the counseling individually initially, then after some 2 or 3 sessions, better to give the counseling in a combined manner. Better to give the counseling in the both sides. And maybe some sexual counseling also one important factor of this marital counseling. So you may be expressing confusion about your sexual orientation. That some issues related to the sexual orientation, whether you are attracted to men or women, that is sexual orientation. It also one important thing to be addressed in the marital counseling. Then some cases, sexual violences leads some sort of abuse situations. You may have had experience of sexual violences or abuse. Then fear of being judged or misunderstood by family, friends, and society. And some aspects of sexuality that is unconventional, that also leads some disturbances in the marital relations. And maybe the persons may have stopped being sexual with yourself or others. So experiencing confusion about your gender, as we know that confused state of, you can say gender identity disorder. If that gender identity disorder is there within the couple, anyone from the couple child, that also one important reason of the marital issues. Here in this case of a focus on the issues, some focus like gender dysphoria, and we know that gender identity disorder, then transgender, then lesbian, then bisexual, monosexual. These are all the various issues. These things we have to discuss in the marital counseling. And in some other issues like sexual issues and counseling also, there are some issues we need to discuss. One is unsatisfying of sexual aspects. Then some erectile dysfunction or loss of sexual desire. Then different sex drives or compatibility issues, affairs and infidelity. Then fear of intimacy or commitment. In some cases, they won't maintain the intimate relationship with other spouse. The reasons also we have to find out. As a counselor, it is the responsible of the counselor with the help of the client. Why the fear of intimacy or commitment? Is there any other extramarital affairs? Maybe one of the reasons, or some other issues that they identity. Okay, these are some issues we are supposed to discuss from the counselor side, and some changes after birth of the child, especially this happens in the case of women. So changes are interest, lack of interest after getting some children. So they will be busy with spend their time with the children, but they won't release their, they won't bother about the sexual these things. That also leads some marital problems in the marital. These are all the various issues related to address in the marital counseling, especially in the sexual counseling. Okay. Then next we will discuss in the next class family counseling, counseling for women and elderly. Okay. Is it okay? Any doubt?
Sir, how is the counseling conducted in such issues
Means?
where there's a confusion about their sexual orientation?
Mm-hmm.
So how do we take the patient through
See,
the client?
for example, if you have the counselor having the proper knowledge about their issue, but yet to address the issue from the counselor side. If there is any issues related to the medical aspects, better to take the help of the medical professionals.
Okay, sir.
Got it?
Yeah.
Anything else? Maybe some reasons of their habits also. For example, if they are drug addicted people, substance abuse. Okay, that also leads some sort of identity issues, are not performing properly in their relations. That is one other important, as I mentioned, intimacy. They won't maintain proper intimacy because of their extramarital relations and maybe some issues related to their own substance abuse, drugs. These are all the various issues in deeper manner. Better to discuss with the stakeholder.
So if they are still confused, sir, then how does the counselor take them through the process where they get clarity about where their orientation lies?
That's what. So the clarity means if it is psychological, for example, as I mentioned, there's a need of physiological. Okay, if the physiological needs, basic needs are not fulfilled, got it? How the fulfillment of the psychological basic needs, the physiological needs.
Right.
See, so what is food is the basic need.
Correct.
After achieving the basic needs, only then the psychological needs. So in some cases, if you want to be clear-cut ideas, so for example, if the basic needs are not fulfilled, that leads some issues in the fulfillment of the psychological needs. Now, like love and affection. Love and affection is possible with the help of the fulfillment of the basic needs, as I mentioned initially. What are the basic needs? Food, shelter, sex, as per as Abraham Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Interrelated, interlinked of the both. Yeah.
Yes, sir.
So these things, as a psychological professional, with the help of the psychological theories, in depth we need to understand. We need to discuss in the deeper manner. We need to identify it. Whether this issue is related to the physiological needs, whether this issue related to the psychological needs.
Yes.
If it is a physiological needs, what happens? What is the reason of this physiological needs? Not fulfillment of the physiological needs. Is there any gender identity disorder? Is there any problem of their health issues? Is there a problem of their substance abuse? Got it?
Got it, sir.
Then if it is ruled out, better to go for the psychological needs. Love and affection. What is the reason of why it is this type of emotional detachment in the family? Why they are not emotionally detached? Why they are not emotionally attached? Why they detach from emotions? Any financial aspects? Is there any family issues? Is there any relationship issues? Any occupational stress?
Yes, sir.
So each and every aspect need to add so that you'll have the. If it is not sorted out in the psychological manner and you are these things, better to still if there is any confusion, if there are any physiological issues, any health issues, better to take the help of the medical doctors.
Yes.
Clear? Chandrakala,
Yes,
madam, is it any doubt?
Hello, sir.
Hello, yeah.
Good afternoon, sir.
Mhm.
Sir, all psychological, when I observed in society, in my community, one case study I have been taking for 3 years. Both husband, wife, అన్ని తెలుగులో చెప్తాను సార్, సపరేట్ అయిపోయారు, మళ్ళీ దగ్గర అయ్యారు, కానీ వాళ్ళని బేసిక్ నీడ్స్ ఫుల్ఫిల్ అయిపోయాయి వాళ్ళకి, బోత్ ఆర్ ఎంప్లాయీస్. కానీ అయినా కూడా వాళ్ళు ఏంటంటే మనీ, అంటే వాళ్ళని ఇన్ఫ్లుయెన్స్ చేసేది మనీ మ్యాటర్స్. మనీ మ్యాటర్స్ వల్ల ఒక ఇంట్లో వండుకుంటూ కూడా ఇప్పుడు 2 years నుండి దూరంగా ఉంటున్నారు, హస్బెండ్ అండ్ వైఫ్. బోత్ ఆర్ స్టేయింగ్ సపరేట్ రూమ్స్. I am giving counseling from my side, only one person only, not together. But she may not considering.
Means maybe she or he, if you give only one side of counseling, it won't work out, madam.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes.
One way or other way, you need to involve the other person also. Then only it is possible to counsel perfectly.
Before that,
your question will be like that, how to involve the other person.
Yeah, sir. But I may not involve 2 persons. I advise to them, you both go to counseling for another psychologist.
No. You do one thing. Just I want to give you suggestion. So here, whatever the other, some cases, I'll give one example. If the guys come to you in order to issue their issue, in order to resolve their issues, so the husband may not be in a position to come to you. He won't accept that.
Yes, he is not accepting.
In that case, what to do? Just have a phone call to the husband. Okay, please try to do it. Okay, మీరు ఏం చేయాలంటే, మీ వైఫ్ ఎట్లా చెప్తున్నారు, నాకు ఎందుకు అంటే, ఇఫ్ యు ఆర్ నాట్ అండర్స్టాండింగ్, మీకు అర్థం కాకపోతే, నాకు అర్థం కావట్లేదు మీ వైఫ్ చెప్పేది, నాకేదో సంథింగ్ ఐ వాంట్ టు హ్యావ్ క్లారిటీ, అందుకోసం మీకు ఫోన్ చేస్తున్నాను, లేకపోతే మీతో మాట్లాడాలనుకున్నాను అని చెప్తుంది. నేను ఇన్ జనరల్ గా చెప్తాను, నేను మీ కేసు చెప్పాల, ఇన్ జనరల్ కేసెస్ నేనేం చేస్తున్నా అది చెప్తున్నాను. ఫస్ట్ నుంచి మీకు అర్థం కాదు కదా మేడం.
Once I talked, sir. Once I talked in a phone call.
That's what I'm telling. One side అట్లాంటి కాదు. మీరు ఏం చేయాలంటే, సంథింగ్ రాంగ్ విత్ యువర్, అంటే నేను చేసి చెప్తున్నాను మీకు. నేనేమంటే, అవతల వాళ్ళు చెప్తున్నప్పుడు అది మీకు నాకు ఎందుకో డౌట్ అనిపిస్తా ఉంది, నాకు క్లారిటీ లేదు, మీ గురించి కూడా తెలుసుకోవాలి, మీ నుంచి మాకు తెలుసుకోవాలనుకుంటున్నాం అంటే దే విల్ యాక్సెప్ట్, దెన్ దే విల్ ఇన్వాల్వ్.
ఒక్కసారి అడిగాను సార్, 1 year బిఫోర్. అడిగితే ఏంటంటే, అతను వర్షన్ ఏంటంటే డిఫరెంట్ ఉంది. థర్డ్ పర్సన్స్ ఆర్ ఎంటరింగ్ ఇన్ అవర్ బోత్ లైఫ్స్, that is related to money matters and different matters. So that's why we both are not convincing each other. He's telling like that.
No. See, అంటే మీరు అట్లా ఇంప్రెషన్ క్రియేట్ చేయగలగాలి. ఓహో, సమ్ మేడం ఇస్ దేర్ టు రిజాల్వ్ అవర్ ఇష్యూ. దట్ ర్యాప్, ఆ ఇంప్రెషన్ మీరు క్రియేట్ చేయగలిగితే డెఫినెట్లీ హీ విల్ కమ్ టు యూ. హీ ఆర్ షీ అది మీరు చేయగలగాలి. అంటే ఇక్కడ మీరున్నది వాళ్ళ ప్రాబ్లమ్ని సాల్వ్ చేయడానికి అని మీరు ఇంప్రెషన్ ఇవ్వగలిగితే డెఫినెట్లీ హీ ఆర్ షీ విల్ కమ్ టు.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Welcome. Is it okay? Next up we will meet.
Madam, hello.